Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 373, the weekend edition, Saturday, March the 17th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I went to the clinic this morning, and they diagnosed me with influenza B and bronchitis. Yep, and I feel pretty crummy, but too much important news to skip the video. My voice is very strong and it's hard not to cough, but I'm going to do my best. So they loaded me up on antibiotics, steroids, inhalers, everything you can think of. I'm taking tons of vitamin C, echinacea, everything I can. So I'm going to try to beat this thing back as best I can. There's just too much work to be done. I can't take a day off. The deep state coup moves forward. And every day we have to rise up and meet the challenge, regardless of how we feel. And I feel pretty crummy. I also want to give a shout out to everyone. On the previous video, I raised a question that's very divisive about Jeff Sessions. I ask a lot of you what what you thought about that. I appreciate the comments that you made, and what I most appreciate is the civil discourse that goes on this channel. What you don't see on my channel, that you see on a lot of other people's channels, is that we can have differences of opinions, but you don't see a lot of people attacking and getting personal with people because they disagree with them. And that's what's most important. Of course, I don't tolerate that kind of... If people just start launching personal attacks and using a lot of salty language, just personal attacks, there's no argument that they're making, they're just being a-holes, I eliminate those, I delete those comments. I don't have to do it often, but I have had to do it. But I appreciate the commenters in that section, in the civil discourse that happens on this YouTube channel. It's not like a lot of other channels where it gets really nasty, and I do appreciate that. And it's a credit to all of you. It just shows the quality of people that tune into my channel every day, and I'm very proud of that, actually. Thank you. Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish, but if you are, happy St. Patrick's Day to all my Irish subscribers. Don't drink too much green beer. Okay, I won't be drinking any green beer, I can assure you of that. Okay. As most of you know by now, Jeff Sessions has fired Andrew McCabe. He really had no choice. The internal review of the FBI looked at the issues, and we don't know exactly specifically if it was one thing or several things, but whatever it was, must have been pretty bad because Sessions had no choice. They fired McCabe, and rightly so. Now, what does this mean? Well, I can assure you that when McCabe went in to talk to Rosenstein's staff, he didn't go in there to make a pitch for himself and say, yeah, well, I've been with the FBI for 20 years. I've done a great job. I've dedicated my life to this. I had a couple bad days. You shouldn't take away my pension because of that. I don't think that's the argument he made. I remember when we covered the story, the day that they forced him to step down, and we heard that he said he was going to, torch the FBI? Now, I don't think he was talking about physically torching the Hoover building. He is a criminal, but I don't think he's an arsonist. I think what he meant was that he's going to take down a lot of people. He sees himself as being made the scapegoat, and he is not going to take the fall for everybody. My guess is that Mr. McCabe is going to become a very, very cooperative witness. Right now, as far as we know, there's no special prosecutor for him to cut a deal with. There is no charge that's been filed against him officially, as far as we know, yet. But as soon as there is, I think that his attorneys are going to be sitting down, and McCabe is going to sing like a bird, and he's going to do everything he can to get back at the people who he thinks threw him under the bus, serving him up as a scapegoat. So there's a lot of very nervous people right now. You know, Comey, Yates, Lynch, and Obama, and the rotten Reverend Clinton. They're all very, very nervous right now because their boy was supposed to be protected, but they couldn't protect him any longer. Just too much evidence. And Sessions did the right thing, but he had no choice. Also, Michael Flynn's charges are going to be dropped. The charges against Michael Flynn will be dropped. Not only that, but I believe that he will likely countersue. He has a civil rights case. He has a couple different cases against Mueller, his investigation, and the Department of Justice. Of course, we already know that Manafort has pleaded not guilty to all of his charges, and there's a bunch. And I don't think he's going to plead not guilty because he wants to fight each individual charge. I think he's going to fight his not guilty is going to be based on, he's going to say that the information used to bring the case was based on faulty or illegal evidence. The wiretaps and everything else, whatever it was that they got Manafort with, I think he's going to make the argument that the case should be thrown out because the evidence is tainted. That's my guess, is how Manafort is going to try to beat that case, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him beat it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. He's got a lot of money. He probably can afford to fight the case. Flynn couldn't. Flynn didn't have that kind of money. But it don't matter, because I think now Flynn is going to be a very wealthy man when he gets through with the Department of Justice and the Mueller investigation, because he's got a rock-solid case. Especially because of what we learned today. Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows were going through a bunch of those emails. Remember, they've got thousands and thousands of emails to go through. And a lot of those emails the Department of Justice sent over, heavily redacted. So they have to go through all these emails, and when they find a redacted name that they need to get unredacted, they have to go over to the DOJ, go to like a private room. They can't take the document, they can only look at it. I think they can take notes maybe, but they can't take the document out. But they discovered an email, and they wanted to get the name because it was blacked out, and they went over and they found out that the name of the person in this particular conversation between Peter Benstrokinus and Lisa Page, the person that we're talking about was this FISA court federal judge, Rudy Contreras. And we learned from the email conversation two important things. Number one, that Peter Benstrokinus knows and is friends with Judge Contreras. He was also on the FISA court. But we learn even more is that they're having a conversation, and Peter Benstrokinus is telling Lisa Page how they have to arrange a dinner meeting. What he wants is a one-on-one with Contreras. But he says that wouldn't look good, so they have to disguise it by having a dinner party. So he's just one of the people at the dinner party. That's very incriminating, considering that Contreras recused himself only after Flynn's guilty plea. So, based on that, I would say that Flynn's lawyers will be in the courtroom on Monday morning looking to get the charges dropped. Not only that, if they can prove that Mueller knew this, Mueller's done. The investigation's over, and Mueller will have to lawyer up because he personally will be getting sued. He will be involved in the corruption himself. He will be part of a frame-up on Michael Flynn. This whole thing's unraveling. If you look at the people who were charged, it's unraveling. Flynn is likely going to have these charges dropped. Manafort's going to fight it. Mr. Gates, his partner, it appears is going to try to cooperate, but he might be thinking twice about that now. We had Papadopoulos, who shows up last week in a photo, smiling, happy as he can be, with his new bride, the Italian lawyer. They're in Europe somewhere. They appear to be doing very well. He doesn't appear to be nervous about being sentenced for his crime. Made false statements to the FBI. Doesn't appear that there's any sentencing hearing coming up for him. They're just going to let him skip off into the sunset. We need to look more into Papadopoulos, and I think that we will in the future understand exactly why his circumstances are such. Uh-oh. A judge in the UK now, after months and months and months of wrangling back and forth, this judge in the UK has now finally ruled that Christopher Steele must sit for a deposition in the BuzzFeed case in Florida. Boom. It's over for BuzzFeed. Right there. You know, we've been talking a lot about the deposition that Christopher Steele had to do in his own case in the UK, and that he is locked in to certain things that he said, which are there in the court filings, which we've been talking about here for months and months and months. He cannot back out of those positions. He says he never spoke to any of the sources. He never verified anything. He never went looking for the information. It came to him. All these things he cannot back out of. So now he's been fighting because BuzzFeed case, they've been trying to get a deposition of him. And, of course, his lawyer's been fighting that. But now it appears that the judge in the UK has ruled with the judge in Florida that, yeah, he's got to sit for deposition in that case. Now, that is BuzzFeed's whole case is, again, the BuzzFeed case is the fact that BuzzFeed released the dossier which made the allegation that Mr. Gubarev's web hosting firm, Webzilla, performed the physical hacking of the DNC, which he strenuously denies. He's saying, prove it, or I'll sue you for libel. And, of course, this is the reason BuzzFeed did not want Christopher Steele testifying, because they know when he gets up there on the witness stand, he cannot verify anything. He cannot change his statements. He's already locked in. This is the important thing to keep in mind, which I keep mentioning over and over again. Whether it's Christopher Steele being interviewed by Mueller or the FBI or anyone, Mr. Gubarev's attorneys, he has already done a deposition in the UK back last year in September. It's been on the record. We look at it and talk about it all the time. You can read it for yourself. It's in a PDF file. All the statements that Christopher Steele made, including that he can't give up his sources, the Russian sources. Allegedly, he does know who they are, but he can't give them up because security concerns. I don't know if he's talking about his security or theirs. But he will not release the names of those sources under any circumstances. And it appears that the judge, in this case, has agreed with Christopher Steele's attorneys. They're going to force him to come sit for the deposition, but they are not going to be able to force him to give up the names of the actual Russian sources. Now, whether or not he has to give up the name of the collectors and the intermediaries, or whether he has to admit that he paid them or whatever, I don't know. We're going to find out. But this is it for BuzzFeed. The case is over. Because as soon as Christopher Steele is deposed in the BuzzFeed case in Florida, and Mr. Gubarev's attorneys ask him, because he's the guy credited with putting it all together, everything in BuzzFeed's case rides on Christopher Steele's word that the information provided in the dossier was true, that Mr. Gubarev's firm did the hacking. He cannot prove that. Not at all. He's not even going to try. And I don't even know if he even believes it. In fact, he probably doesn't believe it. So Christopher Steele is going to give a deposition, and they're going to ask him, can you provide any evidence or anything that Mr. Gubarev's firm did the hacking of the DNC? And he's going to say, no, I can't. Case over. It's done. Which is why Mr. Gubarev's attorneys, weeks and weeks ago, went to another law firm that specializes in deciding on how big of a judgment you should go for based on the parameters of the case. And they've already finished their work and provided a figure to Mr. Gubarev, which is $170 million. So, I mean, they know they're going to win the case. It's only a matter of time. Now, this is important, and it has huge implications for everything else. Because once you have Christopher Steele's deposition in the UK, in his deposition, and you have his deposition in the BuzzFeed case in Florida, you have two depositions by Christopher Steele. He can't say something different. He's locked in. And we know what he has to say because we've been looking at that now for over a year. So, whether they call him into Congress, a special prosecutor, or whatever, Christopher Steele cannot change his story. He cannot change his story. He's got to stay with it. And his story is, he can't verify any of it. Doesn't know if any of it's true, and he can't verify any of it. Boom. This is going to become a major issue. And I noticed, I was watching a video of Chuck Grassley, and he was actually saying they too are looking at those depositions from the UK lawsuit and reading them just like I've been doing for a year. So now the Congress is starting to look at those depositions, and again, there it is. Christopher Steele cannot change his position. He's already locked in. And it's bad news for the deep state because they need Christopher Steele to verify the dossier was true, and he can't do it, nor will he. Game over. Another point for the good guys. Tired of winning yet? I didn't think so. I'm looking at some dates on these timelines because we learned about a week ago that the first meeting between Steele and the FBI was not in July in Italy, in Rome. No, we learned that it was this FBI agent that Christopher Steele worked with on the FIFA case This individual, Michael Gatta, an FBI agent, was contacted by Christopher Steele sometime very early in July, and he wanted to give some information to Mr. Gatta. Mr. Gatta said, well, I have to clear that with the State Department. So he went to the head of European Affairs, Victoria Nuland, and asked for permission to go take a look at Steele's info. Victoria Nuland gave him the thumbs up, and so Mr. Gatta flies to London, and he meets with Steele on July the 5th, 2016. Then in July of 2016, sometime toward the end of the month, we believe, Steele meets with the FBI team in Rome, Italy. Then, at the end of July, the FBI opens the investigation against Trump-Russia collusion. But what's odd about this is the next thing that happens is Jonathan Weiner, the State Department official, meets with Steele in September of 2016 in Washington. Why? To share information about the dossier with him? This is September of 2016. Steele gave the first memos of the dossier to the FBI on I believe it was June the 21st of 2016. He had already met with Steele once before. I mean, by this point, everybody's got the dossier. Glenn Simpson's been passing it all over Washington. Everybody's got it. So why is Weiner needing to meet with Steele and give him information or provide Steele information about the dossier when Steele's already got it? We're talking about the Golden Shower story. That's apparently what they were discussing. So it appears that Weiner has either got this information through the State Department and for some reason decided he would tell Steele what Steele told the FBI, or that Weiner's information was coming from a different source, which we know is Blumenthal and Cody Shearer. Why would the same story that's false be coming from two different sources? And why would they be pushing it so hard? These are very interesting questions that are going to have to be looked into, because they don't make sense. Of course, I guess most of you know that the Grassley and the Senate Judiciary Committee joined the House in calling for a second special counsel, and they specifically want the special second counsel to look into the DOJ FBI involvement in the dossier, the FISA warrants, and the Mueller investigation. They want an investigation of the Mueller investigation. That's very interesting. We'll see how that goes. Now, I stumbled across something on Conservative Treehouse. I know a lot of you read that site. And it was just a couple sentences there. And they were talking about Jeff Sessions appointing a special counsel. And I don't know who's the source on this, but they're saying that it's a very good possibility that the reason Sessions is hesitant to appoint a special counsel is because he believes there's a possibility that the office of special counsel has been corrupted. That you can't trust the office of the special counsel. And if maybe Sessions appoints a special counsel, the guy will be forced somehow to run a cover-up operation and they won't get to the truth. Maybe this explains why Sessions didn't appoint a special counsel, but instead went outside to somebody he knows outside of Washington, who's been in the DOJ for a long time, to work with the IG. I'm not making excuses for Sessions. I'm not saying this is corroborated by anybody. I don't know where this came from, but these guys that write on Conservative Treehouse, they're all former Department of Justice lawyers. These are not just guys sitting around in their underwear writing stuff. These guys know how the inside, what goes on in the inside. And they're saying that Sessions may not have any confidence whatsoever in the office of the Inspector General or Special Counsel, the Office of Special Counsel, and therefore could be totally corrupted as well, which means you can't count on it. And there's some evidence of that. Look at Mueller. Apparently that's the superior to him, this, over what he's doing is this Office of Special Counsel. And look at the kind of show he's running. So, who knows? We'll just have to keep watching. This thing's fascinating. Well, the story that's been running all week long about McMaster being fired and Trump's getting ready to clean house and all that sort of stuff, as it turns out, that entire thing was a setup. It was a setup to set up leakers. McMaster was never going to be fired. It was just something that they fed to various people within the administration, and that they wanted to see who leaked it so they could identify the leakers that were set up. It was an operation being run out of the White House to identify leakers. And it appears that they have nabbed 5 officials who are in the National Security Council. They haven't given us their names, but apparently there are 5 officials in the National Security Council who bit on the, took the bait, passed the story around to the media, and now they're caught. Well done. Cernovich said at 5:31 p.m. that his insider sources said Sessions would not be fired. I like Mike Cernovich, but guess what, Mike? You're wrong on this one, because he has been fired. Well, it appears that the Department of Justice has been trying to hide the fact that McCabe knew Judge Contreras, that they knew this. Of course they did. They have redacted the name. But when Jordan and Meadows discovered it, and the name was blacked out, and they said, who are they talking about here? And they went over and looked at it and saw it was Contreras. It told them right away, whoa. So the DOJ knew that McCabe was friends with Contreras, knowing he's a FISA court judge, and then they have this email where they're talking about getting together at a dinner party so McCabe can talk to him. They knew it. They knew it. And they tried to cover it up. This is what they're running into, and this is why they want a special counsel. Is the Office of Special Counsel corrupted too? I mean, at some point, you have to seriously begin considering military tribunals. If the entire system, including the oversight system, the groups who are supposed to be overseers of these bureaucratic agencies, if they're corrupted too, where do you go next? If even the Office of Special Counsel is corrupted, where do you go next? The only place I can see is military tribunals. You think that we'll get there? My goodness. The Rotten Reverend. So, we heard that the Rotten Reverend, in addition to falling down the steps, she apparently slipped in her shower in her hotel room and had to be sent to the hospital. And now she's been put on ice. I guess she's not allowed to do anything. What is going on? Well, I've been watching the Clintons for a very long time. And I've been saying this for months and months and months and months. When the time finally comes and the Rotten Reverend Clinton realizes that she is going to be facing some sort of criminal indictment, she is immediately going to go to her next move, which is to play the sick old lady routine. And she'll do that by staging real or fake situations. And she'll find herself suddenly having to go into the hospital, and she will be out of reach of the media, won't be able to be investigated or questioned because she'll be too sick to participate in the investigation. And this is classic Clinton all the way. She'll be the sick old lady. They'll try to make her out to be a martyr, try to make us all feel sorry for her. Here's poor sick Hillary in the hospital dying, and they're trying to prosecute her. Because Hillary's got people on the inside at the DOJ and the FBI, the State Department, who got their ear to the wind. And as soon as they get wind that the indictments are coming down, the Rotten Reverend Clinton is going to suddenly fall ill. She's going to become very ill and suddenly have some sort of problem. And they'll have to be running tests and doing all this and all that. And the only thing you'll hear is that the Rotten Reverend Clinton is in Johns Hopkins Medical Center being, examined every which way to try to find out what may be wrong with her. Some people think she's got Parkinson's, whatever. Now, she does have real illnesses. There's no question about that. There's something wrong with the Rotten Reverend Clinton, no question. But she will capitalize on that and take advantage of that to try to avoid prosecution. She's going to play the sick old lady routine when they finally begin to put the noose around her neck, hoping that they can use that as propaganda to say, why are you going after sick old Hillary? Here she is in the hospital. The poor woman lost the election. She's just trying to die peacefully. God knows what's wrong. Everybody's a nervous wreck. Everybody's concerned. Her poor, her health, the poor woman. Get off of her. To launch charges on a poor, sick old woman is horrible. This is exactly what she's going to do. It's all been planned ahead of time. It's exactly what she's going to do. I know the Clintons well. It's the sick old lady routine. Get ready. It's coming. Oh, by the way, thank you for all the well wishes and all the advice in the comment section about how to deal with my cold or my influenza or flu or bronchitis or whatever it is I got going on here. Thank you. I'm doing everything I can to try to get rid of it. I know a lot of you don't like Big Pharma. I don't either. But I think when you got like bronchitis and stuff like that and influenza, I think you got to take antibiotics. I am eating a lot of vitamin C, a couple thousand milligrams a day, echinacea. So I'm doing a little bit of everything. I'm doing the script stuff and I'm doing some natural stuff. And hopefully I'll be feeling better in a couple of days once I start taking my antibiotics. Thank you very much. So one final question. Why is everyone in the swamp so afraid of Hillary? Why is everyone so afraid of Hillary? Why are they all going to the lengths that they're going to protect her and the higher-ups in the administration, Obama? Because remember, I think that they want to preserve some integrity in the government. So I think that's why they targeted McCabe, and they don't want it to go any higher than him. Because if you go any higher than McCabe, you're in the administration. You're into Lynch, Yates, and Comey. Those are cabinet members. Put you in the Obama White House. And then we know that easy to draw the connections to Hillary Clinton. And everybody's terrified. And everybody knows that. And the reason why people, for many, many, many decades throughout the Clintons' crime spree, the reason that people are so terrified of the Clintons, obviously, we know about the Clinton body count, but the Clintons were famous back in the early 90s. Google it for yourself, you'll see what I mean. They began keeping what they called their enemies list. They have dossiers on everybody. We know that Hillary had a dossier done on Bill the first time he ran for governor to see what the opposition was going to say about him. Hillary loves dossiers. She's got one on just about everybody in Washington. Anybody who's anybody. And so everyone's terrified because they know what the Clintons have on them. And they know that Hillary Clinton, everyone knows her. You can't trust her. She'll stab you in the back right now. They've thrown so many people under the bus over the years. I remember when they threw the McDougalls under the bus in the Whitewater thing. They threw people under the bus in Hillary's TravelGate scandal. They throw people under the bus all the time. They'll do it with the Clinton Foundation too. They'll sit back and go, hey, we were just out raising money for the charities. We had people actually running all this stuff. Hey, we're innocent. It's just these other people that made some mistakes. It's not us. They don't commit their own crimes. They let other people do that. But they have enemies lists. You can bet that the Clintons have very, very large enemies list. And everyone knows how Hillary, especially Hillary, Bill as well, but especially Hillary, they know how vindictive and hateful she is. And that, they know for a fact. And I can absolutely guarantee that Hillary's people are communicating to people in the DOJ and the FBI, and this is the reason why they're cock-blocking these investigations, why they're not producing the documents, why they're blacking out names in these documents. It's why they're fighting so hard not to allow this investigation to air this thing out, find out what happened, and move on. It's because they're terrified if it exposes Hillary Clinton that if she doesn't get protection from these people, that she has got something on all of them. And they all know that they will all go down before she does. She will be one of the last dominoes to fall. And that's exactly what the Clintons will make clear. As like I said, we need to learn a lot more about that little tarmac meeting, because I wouldn't doubt it at all. Even though Loretta Lynch is a friend of the Clintons don't really have friends. They have people they use and people that use them. I have no doubt that Bill Clinton would walk up on that plane and go, look, Loretta, I gave you your start in national politics. I'm the one that brought you to Washington. You better make damn sure that you protect Hillary, okay? If you don't, we got a lot of dirt on you, and the details of this little meeting might just come out. So the Clintons are not above bribing, threatening, extorting their friends. They certainly will. They're not above telling their friends and people in D.C. that, hey, if you don't protect Hillary, she's got the goods on you. Her and Bill got it all. And they will dump it. They will dump everything. They will burn the whole damn thing down. That's how they are. I mean, the Clintons will burn the whole damn thing down. They are not going to take their comeuppance and keep their mouth shut. Unlike in Watergate, for the most part, most of the people around Nixon Like G. Gordon Liddy and a couple of the other ones, they didn't say a word. I mean, they could have cooperated and got half the time or a third the time. They were so pissed off at G. Gordon Liddy because he wouldn't say a freaking word. He just wouldn't say a word, wouldn't cooperate with anything. So they threw him in a hardcore prison for like 7 years or something. I forget how many years he was there, but they threw him in a serious hardcore prison to punish him. And a bunch of the other people around Nixon, they all went to jail, and they didn't dump on the president. The only guy who turned on Nixon and spilled the beans on him was his lawyer, John Dean, the rat. But everyone else pretty much took the rap and kept their mouth shut. And of course, Nixon ended up being forced to resign anyway, but not because a lot of people rolled over on him. It was John Dean's really the only one that rolled over on him. Everyone else pretty much took their comeuppance and kept their mouth shut and defended the president. With Hillary Clinton, it's a totally different situation. With those people in Watergate, they thought they had to protect the institution of the presidency and the government. You know, that's kind of how those people would think. But with the Clintons, it's different. It's everything's personal. And the Clintons will destroy you. They will do a lot of things. The Clintons will do whatever they have to do to protect themselves. And that includes throwing their friends under the bus, their relatives under the bus. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bill and Hillary throw Chelsea to the wolves to save their skin. Nothing would surprise me with the Clintons. And they've put out the word, you better protect me or else. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow on Sunday, and hopefully I'll be feeling a little bit better. You guys have a good night. Bye.